If you are just joining us, welcome to the 2024 launch of our Do I Look Like a Gamer representation campaign. And you might have been enjoying a lovely video and then it just suddenly cut off. That is because the full version will be available on YouTube for you to watch through it all at your own leisure. And we launched the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign in 2022 to promote diversity and inclusion in the video games industry. The response was amazing, but the need remains. So it's now a yearly initiative building on the work done in the previous years and continuing the push for diversity in games, culture, and industry. I am mayamada creative director Tazziii, and we're into our second segment of the day, where we are joined by C. Bedford, founder of Alamode Games, and Troy Ado, content creator at Streamcast. Welcome, both of you.
Hello.
Hello. So we'll get started with origin stories. What do you both do, and what part of the game making or playing process are you on? So, C, we'll start with you. If you could tell us about your game and the common misconceptions players have about making games.
Okay, so I'm working on a game called Sorry We're Closed. It's a survival horror game, but it's very story driven. So there's lots of like character interaction, which I think makes it a little bit different from the typical experience. Normally you're very isolated in these games, whereas ours, there's like loads of characters to sort of mingle with and kind of sort of mess around with their lives a little bit. And the character that you play, Michelle, she kind of evolves along with player choice and reflect what the player might be wanting to do within the world. I am, in a short, easy way of trying to describe it, I guess we often say that I'm like kind of the creative director. We're in a two-person team mainly. So there's my partner. He's like the technical director. He does all the programming and everything. And I do sort of the character design, the modeling, rigging, animation, narrative design, the sound directing and everything. So I do a lot of like kind of the creative aspects of what you're seeing and what you're hearing. We do both work on game design together, though, and level design together, which was very new for us coming into this project. And there was a very steep learning curve for it. And I think with the misconceptions, I could actually kind of say fresh from my own experience what that is, because I had my own misconceptions going into making this game since this is our first project, and learning very quickly how I had to correct those ideas. So, for example, there was a lot of this in my mind when playing a game. It feels like you're experiencing the story separately from what you're actually doing in the game. And I started designing a lot of the story very separate from the gameplay itself. And it was more like, and it still reflects a little bit like this in the game, and in the final product, it will be like this, where you do a little bit of story and you do a little bit of combat, and we kind of have this ebb and flow. But I started realizing actually we need to integrate more of the narrative within the gameplay itself and the mechanics that we have available to the player so that they could experience the theme of the story and what the story we're trying to tell in more than just dialogue, because it's kind of boring to just read loads and loads and loads of stuff, and nobody likes having the theme spelled out for them, like, word for word, and this is what you're doing now and this is why you're doing it. So this idea that story can just be kind of written in on top of a game, or that it's just written away from the rest of the team, is like, I feel like that is a big misconception. And it's quite pervasive still, even within the game industry, because there are some times where a narrative designer might feel like they're being alienated from the whole process, when really a narrative designer is there to both tie the story and the gameplay together. There's also some misconceptions as well of what the player feels would actually make the gameplay better. And that's kind of a little bit of like a hot topic, I think, sometimes, because obviously when you're playing a game, you probably think, oh, if only I could do this, this would make the game way more, the experience would be like amazing. And so many times as like a kind of rookie game designer, we actually tried to implement people's feedback very directly,
Ooh,
and oftentimes
big
nobody
mistake.
actually liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote. I'm gonna paraphrase because I can't remember the exact quote, but this idea about is you listen to people's feedback, so you take the criticism, but
Hmm.
not the instruction from
Exactly.
people. So
That's
the criticism comes from a place of something is not working, but you're the
exactly.
expert, so to speak. So it's on you to figure out what it is, and it's not necessarily like directly like this thing because it requires
100%.
more knowledge of the process.
Yeah, 100%. And that's basically what I was just about to like kind of say is what we ended up finding was that oftentimes there could be like something that is multiple players are saying like, oh, I really don't like this and I think I should be able to do this in the game. But what that could actually mean is that actually your solution is elsewhere. That is part of a larger problem that you need to fix. And many times when a player is experiencing a game, they're playing it through the player character. And naturally, it makes it feel like all of your solutions should happen there. But oftentimes, like a player might say, "Oh, I wish I could do a double jump," but really, what the problem is there's something wrong with your environmental design that's making the player feel like they should, they should be able to reach there, but they can't. They need a little bit more help, and that just means that you've designed your level wrong. So there's lots of ways to find solutions for what a player feel is a common problem that has a very simple fix in the player control. But as a game designer, exactly as you said, Nigel, it's our job to actually look at the much wider picture and actually determine what is the real solution. And what we had found with this particular project is many times the solution was something very abstract and very different from what they expected. But once we implemented them, we never heard any complaints about, I want to do this ever again. So it's like, yeah, there's the misconception often lies in the, I guess, the naivety of what game design actually entails outside of player action, because there's so much more to game design outside of what the player can do physically in the game. A lot of it can have to do with how you're signaling things to the player, what affordances you're giving them to make them feel that this world is inviting you to do certain actions and making sure you're actually giving the right affordance for that.
Yeah, I think that's like I've never really thought about it like that. So yeah, that's a really good one. And now I'm like thinking of like going back and thinking of play experiences where I felt like, oh, I should be able to go there or I
Yeah.
should be able to do this, and then recognizing, yeah, if the environment was maybe a bit different, or even sometimes like the dialogue
Yeah.
has like suggested you can do something, but it's not actually, you can't, and how that really affects your experience. Yeah, it's like a curated thing. No, that's just like so different, like to any answer I've heard before. So I'm really liking that one.
Yeah, I mean it is I think it's we've had the pleasure of in indie dev you get to wear many hats. So I think that's really helped us understand where different solutions can lie. Sometimes what also is a misconception is how studios and companies actually work. There is such a huge difference between how a very small indie team might work versus a team of 10 people versus a team of 100 people. I've worked on teams with like 60 plus people before, and in those situations, there may be problems I've had to solve, but there's only one way I can solve it because I was only allowed to do character design. So all of my solutions had to be visually based. And you then, as a group effort, you try to combine those solutions to make something very neatly packaged. But it's hard. It's hard when you have 60 different answers for one problem. Whereas in indie dev, it's just me and my partner. So when we see a problem, it's literally just us two. And I get to make so many decisions of, okay, this player's having this problem. I need to fix this in the environment. I need to fix this with the player character, or how can I reduce down the scope of this? And that in itself gives a very different, tight, neat, solution for an issue. And just it's just there's so many different workflows, and many times I think from someone from the outside you can feel like there's a very standardized version, which there are standards for like certain team sizes, but they don't completely exist throughout. And I think that's good, because I also feel like that means that there is plenty of opportunity for people wanting to get into games to find a way to make stuff and find their own solutions, that not everything is like, there's not a pre-existing way of designing games, that you need to have a team of 100 people to be able to make a really good experience. You can make excellent experiences with sometimes even just a one-person team. It's hard work. I'm never going to deny that, but there's opportunity there. And for people, I think, for players who love trying to find solutions in the games that they're playing, maybe that means you can take the jump into, indie dev and, have a dip your toes in it.
Awesome. Absolutely love that. So Troy, what do you do, and what part of that process are you on?
So I guess we're more the criticizing without actually knowing what we're criticizing part. So I'm trying part of Streamcast. We
Put in a
are
double
kind
jump.
of yeah, 100%. No reason. So I'm trying part of Streamcast. Like, mostly marketing and strategy, but I also do content creation, particularly for the TikTok channels. There's a group of 4 of us. We came together initially because there wasn't enough diversity in the industry, particularly from a Black perspective. Started out as a podcast, so we're giving our point of views. And that manifested into doing more interviews with content creators, which is now manifested in doing interviews with indie gamers. So it shows kind of the ways in which we try and showcase as many people across a wide range of the industry as possible, both on the development creator side. We've been going around for quite a while now. I'm going to say we're in our 7th year, it feels like. Up and down. Thank you. It's been a roller coaster. Right? So yeah, we're in this kind of sense where we're lovers of AAA, champions of indies. That's what we call ourselves. And our models are kind of, at the moment, from a content perspective, playing games on Twitch and showing people that, as well as having a podcast. And we are kind of event curators as well. So recently we've kind of taken on this mantle of trying to bring community together. It's been a very difficult thing post-COVID. People do want to go out, but it can be difficult to set things up. So we're trying to be that kind of glue as well, to try and get people together from different parts of the industry, and just general gamers too that just like to game.
Yeah. And so you have an event coming up. Do you want to give us some details on that?
So the backstory is we did a Pokemon tournament last year, and we've done fighting game tournaments. I think everyone will have an idea of how, I guess, toxic they can be, but more so very intimidating. Like, especially if you're just a casual player, which I am. I've become, as I've grown older, especially since I've had a daughter, I've become more of a casual gamer as opposed to a competitive one. So we were taking on feedback, and the feedback just allowed us to kind of be in this space where we can think, well, what can we do with this? What can we do for the wider community? 3 out of 4 of us are big, well, me now, but 3 out of 4 of us are big cozy gamers. There's some who are longer cozy gamers than myself. So we devised the idea of a cozy cafe. So the Streamcast Cozy Cafe is essentially the idea that people can come together, play very cozy games. Pokemon is in there, but you won't be battling, you'll be trading and raiding. So we're kind of taking the battle element out. But you can come together, play different games, different cozy games. We're looking at doing a variety of giveaways as well, for people that come down, and there'll be food and drinks available. And it's this whole sense of community, again, just trying to bring people together. We've got a few games we're planning as well to help people connect. I've been to a few events this year where it can be difficult to speak to people because they always kind of congregate in large groups. So we're going to try and facilitate breaking that up a bit. And we're not saying like you're going to come here and make new friends out of the bat, but you tend to see people a lot. So at least in this way, if you have that first base of, oh, I see you at the event, hopefully it gives you a bit more confidence. Like if you see them at another event later on down the year, you can be like, hey, I see you, how are things going, that sort of thing, and build up community that way. Just kind of, we want to keep it as, we want to redo it, do a continuation of it. Hopefully it's successful, but we also want to see it as a starting point for a lot of people for other events. It just doesn't have to be ours. Just keep that community going. So that's how we see it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds like really, really great. I am because I wanted to come to the event, so I'm gutted because I'm not in London.
Cool. That's cool.
When it's on, and I was like, because it sounds great. It sounds like a great event. And I love that you're creating that connection for people to be able to take going forward. Because there are a lot of events in the community, but not all of them give you the opportunity to actually talk to and meet to people, make that first initial connection. Because once you do, you're just going to see people and you can actually start to create those bonds. So,
Which is very important, and it's like breaking down the walls. And I think people need help with that. I think a lot of social change since, I guess, COVID, even before that, and a lot of people are aware of it. So it's just our way of going, hey, we understand. It's not just about bringing in a space. It's not just, because sometimes there's panels as well that you can go to, but it feels a bit awkward to speak to people after the panel if they're rushing off elsewhere. It's just a space to relax and be you, and hopefully in that environment you can foster some connections as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope it is a great success and that you're able to continue and run more iterations of it. And so I do want to ask you both what diversity means to you as it relates to the work that you do. So C, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so diversity to me just means a better reflection of what the real world is. My upbringing and my life has always been extremely just a big salad of people. My mother, she's disabled. She has cerebral palsy. So I've had a single parent mom who has always been in a wheelchair, and she had 5 kids. And the other thing too is some of my siblings, we have different fathers, so we're literally all different colors. Like my youngest sister's blonde hair and blue-eyed, and I have my younger brother who is a lot darker than me with proper afro hair. So the world was never separated for me. So when I see a sort of proper separation or segregation in themes and characters in games, it just feels extremely unrealistic to my world and my worldview and my experience. So when I say adding diversity to a game, I feel like I'm just saying making a game more normal. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's a weird answer or not, but to me, that's just the reality of what it is. Literally, I can never think of any moment in my life where I was surrounded by the same kind of person more than once. And I feel like if at any point, that you are surrounded by the same kind of person, there's a real big opportunity of just actual personal life experience that you could be missing out on, and that when seeing or meeting someone new, it's literally, it's just anything else new in your life. It's such a great chance to just literally open your horizons and be oh wow, this is completely different from me, and it just makes you wiser. It just makes the world more pleasant and way more fun to be in. So I don't know. That's what it means to me. So that's what I'm going to do.
I think it's a great answer, and I might have to steal that salad analogy because I also have a very mixed family, and that's without even having some of my cousins don't have different parents, and they're same blonde hair, blue eyes, and then and then their brother is slightly darker than me. Same
exactly.
parents.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy because I mean, not to get too much into the details, my brother, who is younger than me and darker than me, his father's lighter than me, and my father's darker than him. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
when you come from that world, when people start saying and using the word diversity and feel, like in a negative light, you're like, oh my God, you don't even know. Like it
You're
is
like,
so much weirder than you think it is.
Yeah, I have
yeah,
that as well.
I love the idea that it's just making things normal, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's exactly how I'm really relating to the way you explained it.
I'm
Just
glad.
normal, right?
Yeah.
Making it
Right.
normal. Making it
Yeah, you
reflect
go ahead,
the
Troy.
real
You can-
world. Yeah, Troy. So what about you? What does that
How do I add on to that? No, I understand that perspective too. I'm Ghanaian. I have two dark-skinned parents, which no one ever gets. But it's just the genetics in it. You just never know. My grandma's mixed race. So it's just anything can happen.
Yeah, literally.
For us, diversity was always seen as visibility. I'm almost giving almost a voice to the voiceless to an instant, especially in the beginning where a lot of people were drowned out. I've just like to see that recently where people are trying to push them out of spaces where they should be and they should be happy to thrive in. Like whether people like to admit it or not, and most people know this, gaming has always been diverse. Whether we've seen it in the characters or the people behind the team, it hasn't. However, on the other side, yeah, and it makes up a lot of different cultures. Like so many cultures. And I can definitely speak from a London perspective. It made up a lot of ours, whether it was FIFA or wrestling, or if you were more into your it's Halos at the time. It was a lot of people's lives, and a lot of people used that as inspiration to go into the industry with it, to make the games or to make the content. So we kind of just wanted to be a booster because we just want to show people there are all aspects of stories and creativity to be in there, not just one, not just one background, whether that's school you come from, your parents, the country, whatever it is. Diversity for us means different backgrounds that makes kind of different stories from different faces and different voices. I think that's what we've always tried to push for us.
The voice to the voiceless was just like such a that's such a nice line. No, again, like amazing answers, and I could not agree more with both of you. So like such great points that you've both brought up. I do want to mention one of our other events that we have coming as part of the campaign, which is our family game design jam. So we have a separate low tech game design and a high tech game jam event for young creators and families to come together and dig deep into the key design principles behind making games. So we've run this in the previous years. We've also done workshop with young people in sort of like schools and youth hubs. And so it's like just a really, really great, interesting process. I've learned so much like doing it, like facilitating it. It's really great. And especially like for families to come along, because it will help you get like a hands-on experience as well and understand where your young person may be coming from, or if you're a young person yourself or aspiring games industry, then it's like a good opportunity just to get a little bit of experience and just the key elements that a lot of people like miss. Go straight into like people go straight into the want to make it shiny and sparkly and let's get down to the nitty gritty, those basic elements that make up a game. And it's for everyone to come along and enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing, especially for like. I was gonna say, especially for parents who might not have any idea but just want to support their kids.
Yeah.
That's basically stuff like something hands-on. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's just like a fun day out. Like even if you're like really not that, especially if you're like, I don't really know, I just want something fun to do. Like this is the one. This is the one to come to. It's just like a great activity for sure. So yeah, you can check that out. And thank you again, everyone in chat, engaging in the conversation. We'll make sure to read out some of those in a sec. But you can also give us your opinion on our monthly question that we're asking and vote on our poll, which is, are you excited about a mid-generation console refresh following the leaks about PlayStation 5 Pro's release 4 years after the base model's launch? We want to know if Sony's mid-gen upgrade is something you're looking forward to. So let us know by voting in our poll. But make sure you stick around as we have our third segment coming up, and we'll be revealing details about another campaign event after another behind-the-scenes look at this year's Campaign 40 talking about their video game experience.
Hey there, I'm Nigel from mayamada. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other great videos we have on the channel. You can also join the Gamepad Discord and check out the next event at gamepad.events. We'll see you soon.